In the last portion of this webinar, we want to cover another area that has seen a lot of improvements in this release and in recent release. This is the web technologies that you can use for building not only web services, which is our RAD server technology, but also for building web application by combining the WebBroker Foundation and WebStencils. WebBroker is the framework for building web server extensions for IIS Apache and now also Nginx, or creating standalone web servers. WebBroker is a foundation also for RAD server, DataSnap, and a lot of third-party libraries that exist in the Delphi and C++ Builder ecosystem. 13 introduces the largest upgrade to WebBroker since Delphi 6. We are introducing integrated sessions. There's more in the coming slides, but it's really a big feature to have as a foundation in the core library. We have introduced fast CGI support that opens up the ability to use Nginx, but also allows a different integration with Apache without loading the library in the same memory space of the web server. Of course, FastCGI is also added to the WebBroker wizard that helps you create WebBroker application in the first place. We have introduced support for Apache config configuration, so you can have a number of information in the Apache config files that are loaded directly into records in the Delphi application. We have expanded logging by introducing an integrated logging capability at the WebBroker level in the T web application class. The mapping is automatic, not to like custom files, but whenever available to standard log files for Apache and IIS, while of course for CGI, we are using a custom log file name. As I was mentioning, the big new feature is sessions management. There is a new T-Web Session Manager component that you can drop in a web data module. This is a list of the web session objects. By default, the mechanism uses session cookie, temporary session cookies, but there are other options available to track sessions. There is a session object that is kept around in memory in web requests. There is an authentication method and an authentication username as part of the web request. There are also two ready-to-use authentication mechanisms for logging to help building logging. Of course, HTTP direct basic authentication or HTML form-based authentication mechanism. This is something you'll need to create the HTML for, but the logic and the core mechanism is available and ready to use. The Web Session Manager, as I will mention, is a non-visual component you can use with a number of configurations. And then whenever you get a request from a browser, the web session object is going to include information like session data vars that are per session and not global, user information, the time the session was created, the URL visited, the IP from the customer, and so forth. There is also a web authorizer logic, because once you have a session and a user, you can determine which permissions the user has in terms of access to resources of your web application. Now, on top of WebBroker, what we have implemented, starting with RAD Studio 12.2, is a template engine called WebStencils. It's a server-side template engine for building very efficient, fast performance, data-driven website, and it's available as an add-on to WebBroker, DataSnap, or RAD server. WebStencils is getting a major upgrade in 13 with the session support of WebBroker session logic, but also a new statement and some more information. The support for session data, of course, comes with the support for sessions. There is also an easy way to handle temporary variable without having to create a class and expose a class property. There is, as mentioned, a new switch statement, which can have multiple cases and a default value. There is direct access to the set properties, for example, the list of fields, the record numbers, and so forth, but also the ability to disallow access to these dataset properties if you are really worried in terms of security, because someone might have scripts that access information you don't want to expose to those scripts, although consider that all of these scripts run on the server and it's 100% server-side configuration. There is a new support for merging nested headers, and we've added a number of additional information in the page keyword. As I was mentioning, WebStencils and sessions are meant to be used together. So there's new access to session data via an add session new keyword for WebStencils. And then, of course, the ability to check if the user is in a specific role, so has specific permission. These can all be managed from the scripts. So WebStencils is really much more powerful than it already was in 12.2 and even easier to use because there are a lot of additional building blocks that are ready for you, plus the ability to integrate it with engines and support logging and more server-side features. But the real power is in seeing WebStencils in action in RAD Studio 13, and for that I'll pass the microphone to Antonio.
Thanks, Marco. Hey everyone. So this is probably the most exciting web update we've had in WebBroker since Delphi 6, and honestly, it's mainly because of these incredible WebStencils enhancements that really take this to what I would almost call a 2.0 version. Because I don't have much time, I'm going to show you my absolute favorite 3 things that are going to be available on RAD Studio 13. First, let's talk about the new session management. Right now, I'm an anonymous user, as you can see in this session page, and I don't have access to some areas of the site either. But this demo comes with 2 users, demo and admin. Let's see what happens when I log in as demo. Now I've got a full session with user data, roles, and custom info if I need to, all handled by the new T-Web Session Manager component. As you can see now, I can access the task page because the demo user has the right roles, but watch what happens if I try to access the customers section. We see this custom 403 page, so the authorization happens at the page level using the new T-Web Authorizer component that we will see in a second. Now let's log in as admin to access customers. And here's our customers table with pagination and search that, by the way, all this has been integrated with FireDAC. But now it's where it gets very interesting. Let's edit this customer. This form we see is completely auto-generated from FireDAC metadata. Field types, lengths, display labels, required fields, you name it. And of course, the demo is fully functional and offers the whole CRUD experience. So I could edit, create, and delete customers, no problem. But here's the real magic. Let's open the web module where this customer query is configured. And by the way, this is 100% the standard FireDAC. Do you see this ID field that is set to not visible? Okay, let's change it to true and now refresh the project. The field just appeared and I didn't touch a line of HTML. Oh, and do you see this country dropdown here? It's a lookup dataset that is linked to the country field and is automatically rendered. So literally your database writes your website for you now. This changes everything for large form handling, which has always been an absolute pain to deal with on the front end. Let's see now the session components, which are extremely simple. Here we have the session manager, form authenticator for login and logout, and web authorizer to define permission zones. And that's it. With these 3 components, we handle all the security of our website with almost 0 code. Here we can see the WebStencils template rendering the whole customer form we just saw, looping through the query fields. And this dynamic input template detects FireDAC field types and render the required HTML using the new handy switch operator. And the coolest part is that this template can be reused for any query because of the template is fully abstracted from the parent query. So that was session management, automatic form generation, and smart templates, available for both Delphi and C++ Builder. This allows web developers with no Delphi or C++ knowledge to work with RAD Studio teams on the same project. And it's extremely powerful, not only for new projects, but for expanding legacy systems as well. Oh, and by the way, this whole demo we just saw will be available in the upcoming days, so stay tuned for our blog.
Last thing I want to mention is RAD Server, which is Embarcadero middle tier solution for publishing REST APIs for client applications. It's a ready-to-use system with a lot of built-in features, much more than what WebBroker provides. You extend it by creating packages that are mapped to specific URLs. RAD server is getting continuous updates and improvements, and it's available in the Enterprise and Architect RAD Studio SKUs for both Delphi and C++. RAD server enhancements account from a number of things: improvements in the way we manage the Swagger-based API documentation, which is automatic documentation system based on the methods you are exposing to the internet as REST web services. We've expanded the support for multi-tenancy. That's the ability to use the same engine for multiple separated customers with isolated data in databases. And also introduced a way to do API versioning, so you can keep an existing URL pointing to a specific API, but add a new version of the same URL, of the same endpoints, and you can version it. So depending on the URL with the version number, you can target one specific version, or you can just automatically move for the most recent version for that URL. That's important because when you're introducing a new API and extend it and expand it, you might end up with incompatibilities, and you want your older clients to still target the new version of the server.